everyone, my name is Discourse, and wow, it's been some year, hasn't it? We've seen new games get launched, 3D printing has really started to come into its own, and there's been a lot of new Space Marine lieutenants. No, too many! And of course, who could forget the tremendous launch of Age of Sigmar Dominion? A box set so popular that even today, I still see it in my local game store. Usually at a significant discount.
I'd buy that for $1.
Yeah, more of a damp squib than a tremendous launch with that one. But just remember, if it's a third-party store who are trying to sell you the box, Games Workshop don't care. They already made their sale on the hapless independent store owner. Maybe next time, independent stores will be a little bit more skeptical when GW hyped their box set into the stratosphere. But aside from witnessing some major triumphs in the hobby, we've also seen the year play host to some absolute balls-to-the-wall cluster as well. Mostly from Games Workshop. Actually, I'm just checking my notes and they are all from Games Workshop. Wow, they've been keeping busy. So busy, in fact, it's been really difficult to whittle down their f***ups into a list of 5. But I worked hard over the Christmas holiday to bring you this digestible list of 5, ready to present to you now. So sit back, relax, and crack open some toys that you got for Christmas, unless you've been naughty and only got coal, Gary. And join me as I run down the 5 biggest cock-ups of Games Workshop 2021. Number 5. The Black Templar Army Box. We're starting with an easy one here. Does anyone else remember this box set? It feels like a distant memory now. Hard to believe it only came out in November. All it cost you was $200 and you could get your hands on 13 models. A codex with exclusive 30-year-old artwork. No, not that book, the other one. Some data cards and a decal sheet. That's not a lot. In fact, that's kind of embarrassing. There was genuinely zero value in this box. Although the medieval haircuts were fun. I still can't believe that Games Workshop thought they could sell this box for $200. They're so out of touch with the marketplace and what you can buy from other companies. It's the arrogance of this box that really particularly annoys me. But it also really cemented the fact that Games Workshop are now relying on an exclusive early access model in order to sell their miniatures. They are completely committed to that model now because there's just so little value in this box. Games Workshop were heavily leaning on early access to the exclusive codex. The value proposition of this box was basically buy it now and get access to the Black Templar rules a month earlier than everyone else. And that was super sad. I'm not looking forward to the next army box set from Games Workshop unless they stop this early access model. It's just not good for consumers. We're getting way less bang for our buck now, and this practice creates tiers of players. Those who have access to the new codex because they bought an overpriced bundle, and those who don't because they were patient and didn't buy the overpriced bundle. It's bad enough that Games Workshop sell the rules to their games. Now they want to sell the rules to only certain people early for more money. But the bright side is this box doesn't seem to have sold very well. Which makes sense because even for the most ardent Black Templar fan, this box just was a real tough ask. So that's good for consumers. It might make Games Workshop think twice next time. It's just sad that Black Templars had to suffer for it because they're one of the more interesting Space Marine chapters. Take it on the chin, boys. You've still got that Bretonian peasant look about you. Games Workshop can never take that away. Black Templar, more like Bad Templar. Number 4. The Old Foes bundles. Every single week, Games Workshop's web store is updated with a new rotating set of bundles. These are known as the Old Foes bundles and are themed on historic grievances in the Warhammer setting. For example, you have Death Guard versus Admech. You've got Space Marines versus Necrons. Or you've even got Tau versus Sigvald. Wait. And every week, I warn people not to buy them. And the reason I warn people not to buy them is the same reason they're number 4 on this list. And that's because... drumroll please. They're designed to trick consumers into thinking that they're discounted bundles, but they don't have a discount. That's right, Games Workshop go to a lot of effort every single week in order to create bespoke bundles and advertise them as if they are time limited and exclusive. But the items contained in the bundle are available all year round, and there's not even a discount applied to them, so this is just a scam, really. There's no other way to put this. And the worst part is, it totally works. They're conning people out of money by doing this. It's utterly deceptive. These OFO bundles never quite earned their way into a single video of mine this year, but I must have mentioned them about a dozen times now across various different videos. To me, they feel less like getting mugged in an alleyway and more like a bully asking for your lunch money every day. They are an attrition-based warfare, and I can only despair at the number of new players and new hobbyists and parents who have been tricked into buying into these bundles thinking that they represent good value. And to be honest, I've even seen a few seasoned hobbyists fall for this trick. Every single week, I see people saying, "Oh, I'm really tempted by the new bundle." And I have to tell them, no, don't do it. It's a literal scam. They're just individual products put in a single basket. They're always available and you don't save anything at all by buying them today. But Games Workshop know what they're doing here. They're exploiting psychology. We see the boxes put together and it flicks a switch in our monkey brains, making us think that we're getting some value here, that we're making some saving. Games Workshop love to play with the aesthetic of a sale, but never commit to actually putting any products on sale at all. And you know, the more I've actually thought about this, the more and more mad I've progressively gotten. These bundles are so duplicitous that I've actually reported Games Workshop to the Trading Standards Agency at the Citizens Advice Bureau. I don't know if anything will come of this. I actually volunteered at the Citizens Advice Bureau for a while, and these organizations are mostly advisory, but we'll see. I haven't bought one of these bundles myself, so my complaint probably won't get as far, but if you have, I definitely encourage you to make a complaint, as that will go further with the Trade Standards Agency. I'll put a link in the description of this video if you would like to make a complaint yourself. I strongly encourage it, and we never know, maybe it'll make a difference. Maybe the Ombudsman will get them with his stovepipe hat and his long hooky stick. The Ombudsman's coming to get you. The Ombudsman's coming to get you. Regardless of the result, I'll continue to warn consumers about these bundles every single week. Please, GW, please take the bundles down and let me get some sleep. Number 3. Cursed City. But Discourse, they said they're re-releasing the game. Oh no you don't. Re-releasing the game a year later does not mean that we should forget the colossal screw-up that was the launch of Cursed City. This easily deserves a spot on the list. Cursed City was a cooperative board game miniature game hybrid that released on the 21st of April 2021, and it immediately sold out. Originally, it had been billed as a part of the permanent Games Workshop library of games, and consumers had been promised all sorts of expansions and new miniatures and new support for the game as the year went on. We were told that it would be a cornerstone of the 2021 release schedule for Games Workshop, and people were excited about this game. It was like a mixture of Mordheim and Darkest Dungeon. The miniatures looked great, and Games Workshop had built a lot of hype. So when it sold out in minutes of releasing, a lot of people missed out. But not to worry, consumers merely had to wait for a second printing, which was sure to come. Except, then all mention of the game were redacted from the Games Workshop store. Yeah, and when someone reached out to the Games Workshop Twitter account, they were told in no uncertain terms that it would never be returning. So what the f? So this was new and completely at odds with all the messaging from Games Workshop before the launch. But it actually gets better, because Games Workshop then went back and deleted all their previous posts about Cursed City. They basically gaslit the entire community, and it was astounding to watch in real time as Games Workshop basically went full 1984. And the people who really lost out here were the biggest fans of the game. The most invested people got screwed because they ended up having to pay absurd scalper prices to get the game. And these scalper prices went up even further when Games Workshop said that the game would not be returning. Some secondary sellers were selling the game for as much as $350 $8. And people bought it at that price because there was nowhere else to get it ever again. And Games Workshop have never revealed how or why they massively f***ed up this launch and screwed over their customers. So it doesn't really matter to me that Games Workshop are doing a second run now. It's more like salt in the wound to players. When the game originally launched and sold out immediately, Games Workshop should have been more open about the trajectory of the game. They should have been honest and told us why the game would not be coming back, or if there was any remote possibility that it would, and explain why that was the case. Was there manufacturing issues or simply a conflict with the IP? Give us an idea. Let us know if it was just delayed for a year or two and would be returning. And if Games Workshop didn't know that was the case, they should have said why. But they didn't. They closed up shop and told customers to go f*** themselves. And then they deleted all mentions of the product. So, are we looking forward to it next year? Personally, I'm thinking I might just boycott it. All enthusiasm from me has been lost. At least the one upside here is that we have a year's worth of reviews for the game. And well, from what I've heard, the gameplay is painfully mediocre. So yeah, I think I'll skip it next year and just stick with Fantasy Trip for my co-op experience. Number 2. Warhammer Plus. Wow, what a colossal f*** up. Warhammer Netflix, how could it go wrong? Well, it did, and it was so avoidable. Warhammer Plus should not have been on this list. Surely everyone wants to Warhammer and chill. This should have been an easy win. Games Workshop billed it as the ultimate premium content delivery platform of 2021 for all the biggest Warhammer fans. They hyped it up like it was some revolutionary service. And then it launched on the 25th of August with all the fanfare of a wet fart. It was dead on arrival and had very little content. It was designed from the ground up to be a paid platform for Warhammer animation, and yet it launched with only around half an hour worth of shows, a couple of painting tutorials, and a battle report. But don't worry, it also came with some non-PDF digital versions of some White Dwarf magazines, with all the rules and references to previous editions of Warhammer removed. The only value that Games Workshop could present with this service was paywalling previously free apps, and then giving you access to those apps if you were subscribed to Warhammer Plus. Oh man! Oh, and they also sold an exclusive miniature if you were subscribed to the platform for a year, which, by the way, we still haven't seen, so you essentially pre-ordered a miniature from Games Workshop and everyone else got worse service. Thanks for looking out for the fans, GW! This was embarrassing. It was a terrible launch for a terrible platform, and it was incredibly disappointing. Games Workshop obviously wasted a lot of time, effort, and money on this, but what really earned it a spot on this list at number 2 were the ramifications of this service for Warhammer fans. Because to clarify, there is a world where Warhammer animations and content around Warhammer does really well. And it's this world actually, because there was already a lot of Warhammer animation on the internet before Warhammer Plus. But it was created by fans and free to access. Uh-oh, Games Workshop did not like that. And they didn't like that fan content would be effectively competing with their own worst paid for service. So they tightened their IP policy and effectively banned Warhammer fan animations ahead of the launch of Warhammer Plus. And this impacted a lot of creators, one of the more notable being Bruva Alphabusa, who created the If the Emperor Had a Text-to-Speech device. And he ended that series as a result of this tightening. And though some creators did go on to work with Games Workshop for Warhammer Plus, overall it was a net loss. And it was this IP crackdown that was a direct ramification of Warhammer Plus that ended up motivating the big push for a Warhammer boycott earlier this year. And it pushed a lot of people into alternative miniature game systems, so that's good at least. And this is all bizarre because fan content on YouTube was just free advertising for Warhammer. Their existence was good for Games Workshop and they were never in competition with Warhammer Plus. They were just more content in addition to whatever Games Workshop could also put out. It would be like me trying to take down Midwinter Minis. Yeah, he has a lot more views, but people can watch my content and his. We are not in a competition. Although, he's not the only one who can make their own soundtrack. Huh? I'm coming for you, guy. And it's clear that Games Workshop genuinely don't recognize the value the content creators on YouTube can bring to Warhammer, which just shows how profoundly out of touch they are with their customer base. And no amount of funny Warhammer blog posts will change that. Dishonourable Mentions! And before I get into number one, I just want to take the time here to acknowledge some dishonourable mentions, because 2021 really has been a big year for cock-ups from Games Workshop. Don't forget that GW took down all the digital rulebooks this year, right at the height of the pandemic. Just because of, well, piracy, I think? Stupid plan, it won't work, and it's majorly anti-consumer, and hell, actively dangerous considering the health crisis that the world is currently experiencing. Very irresponsible. There was also allegations of poor pay at Games Workshop this year, but that's been a historic issue, so couldn't really slot it into this list. Or how about the obvious omissions from codices in order to sell those rules later on in new supplements or Warzone books? Gotta love that day one DLC. Oh, or how about the endless FOMO boxes? Oh, they're a classic. Locking exclusive miniatures inside box sets, another great one. And the new orcs, oh, the new orcs. Those orcs are releasing separately, by the way, in January 2022, so I'm sort of treating them like a 2022 release. But if I wasn't, I swear they would be number one on this list. And I really mean that. I am genuinely terrified for what those new orcs mean for the future of Warhammer. Hey, that's actually a pretty good title. I'm gonna use that in a video. But we can't dally here all day. It's on with the show. Number one, Games Workshop's predatory NDA. Yes, that's right. If you recall, Games Workshop's non-disclosure agreement that is sent out to influencers was leaked this year. And boy, was it a gnarly document. And to quickly explain, a non-disclosure agreement or an NDA is basically a shut-up contract which says, we'll send you stuff out early before release, don't tell anyone until we say you can. And it's a very standard document across various industries. But the NDA the Games Workshop are sending out to content creators was leaked this year. And then a few bigger creators like Miscast Minis and Goobertown Hobbies, Trent and Brent, concerned about this document, highlighted it on communities like Twitter and Reddit. And when it was first revealed, there was of course the usual defenders of Games Workshop rushing to the defense of the NDA, calling it, and I'm gonna quote here, a boilerplate document. They were wrong and had no idea what they're talking about. It was a bizarre defense. Yes, NDAs are common, but the wording on GW's version was not boilerplate. And one such defender was Norn Queen Alexis, who took to Twitter to defend the multi-billion pound company. But then she was actually contacted by a small content creator who showed her the NDA that they had signed with Games Workshop, which matched the leaked NDA that Goobertown Hobbies and Miscast Minis were talking about, thus proving to the Norn Queen that it was real. And to clarify, this was shown to Norn Queen Alexis privately in a DM, and the content creator asked her not to show it to anyone else. It was a private conversation in confidence. And so, Norn Queen Alexis did the reasonable thing. She publicly recanted her position and changed her mind based on the evidence that was presented. No, wait, no, that's not true. She actually just reported the content creator to Games Workshop for leaking the NDA to her. Then she revealed their details publicly on Twitter with a screenshot of their private conversation and doubled down on her position. Boy, I sure wouldn't have wanted to have been her neighbor during McCarthyism. And then after throwing that content creator to the wolves and facing a lot of public backlash as a result, she deleted her social media presence and disappeared. Exiled. Then she promptly returned a few weeks later as if nothing had happened. Very honorable. And then another YouTuber incorrectly reported that Goobertown Hobbies had been the one to reveal their details, and things just got messy. And unfortunately, all of this detracted from the central point, because the circumstances of the leaked NDA and all the YouTube, Twitter drama around it are irrelevant, really. It's a sideshow. The big problem is that the NDA the Games Workshop are sending out to smaller content creators is one of the most onerous, aggressive, badly worded piece of legalese I have ever encountered. And the fact that they are sending out this document to anyone at all is not only embarrassing and out of touch with how content creators function, but it shows a complete contempt for both content creators and consumers. You see, the NDA that Games Workshop have been sending out to content creators is wildly out of step with what it needs to do. Oh yeah, I actually forgot to make that clear. Games Workshop are still sending this NDA out. New versions of this NDA have been shown to me very recently, and it still contains all sorts of troubling clauses, from forcing content creators to pay for Games Workshop's legal fees in the event that Games Workshop take that content creator to court, even if the court sides with the content creator. It also prohibits the content creator from doing or saying anything that would prevent a Warhammer player from continuing to play Warhammer. In other words, if you're reviewing a Games Workshop product, make it a favorable review. And don't say anything that will make customers not want to buy it. Anyone else seeing a bit of a conflict of interests for the reviewer here? Content creators also have to agree not to do anything that would harm the reputation of Games Workshop. So arguably, they couldn't, for example, call Games Workshop plastic, overpriced, their sculpts okay but reliant on excessive detailing, their games as pretty archaic and not very well designed, their rules model as predatory, their products as bloated, and their obsession with Space Marines as perverse. Oh, and I should mention, I have not signed this NDA, and I will never do so. And I cannot get across how strongly I advise this, but I would warn any content creator not to sign this NDA. Seriously, miss out on the early access to products. I get that it would make it easier for you to do your job if you get the product early, which means you can get your review out in time for everyone else's, but it's not worth it. Don't be fooled. This NDA will kill the independence of your channel. And overall, it's curtailing what type of journalism can be performed on YouTube. Do not sign this NDA. It is the worst deal Games Workshop have ever put forward. And that's saying something. And we are only beginning to see the ramifications of this disgusting document. Because in 5 years down the line, the small content creators who have signed this NDA today will be the next generation of content creators. And their channels will be utterly hamstrung by this legal agreement. And their independence as creators will be dead. Because the sneaky thing about this NDA is that it never ends. Not unless Games Workshop wanted to. That's right, there's no termination in this NDA for content creators. GW can simply refresh the 36-month lifespan of it whenever they want by simply sending out a new Space Marine. It's endless and non-consensual. It's like student loans. The only way to escape this is to go into hiding for 3 years publishing content from your camper van in New Zealand. Wait, isn't that what Zorp is doing? It all makes sense now. It's hard for me to satirize or exaggerate the effects of this NDA, because in all my years, it's one of the worst legal documents I've ever come across. That half the clauses in this document are so extreme that there's no way a court of law would ever find in favor of them is not an excuse. That's beside the point. This will have a chilling effect on YouTube content creators, because we all know how litigious Games Workshop are. The fact is, Games Workshop put these duplicitous clauses in this contract in order to scare content creators, to force them to do what GW want, and having a possibility, no matter how remote, to enforce those clauses in a courtroom. This NDA is seriously bad news. And even today, content creators are still signing it. I went through this NDA in depth when it first leaked, so check out my video in the corner above. I believe it's important for content creators to remain independent from the companies that they review. We are not paid employees of Games Workshop, nor should we be. Content creators must be completely transparent when or if they're being sponsored, and this NDA explicitly prohibits that, and it's going to impact the landscape for years and years to come. And so, for that reason, this NDA is the worst thing that Games Workshop have done in 2021. It's not exciting, but it's real. shame on Games Workshop. It's been a very sad year in many ways for miniature wargaming. Games Workshop have been acting particularly aggressive this year, and they seem to have regressed to a really bad place. I'm seeing echoes of 2014 Games Workshop, and I believe that in 2021 they have spiraled back into their old bad habits. Except worse, because now they have more money. And as the biggest company in the miniature wargaming space, what they do impacts therefore the most hobbyists. So even if you don't play Games Workshop products, their antics should still concern you. And really, Games Workshop define what is normal in this marketplace. To me, Games Workshop are the front lines of this hobby when it comes to consumer advocacy. If they can get away with anti-consumer practices, then anyone can. And we're starting to see the Games Workshop style of business creep into some other miniature wargaming companies. And that terrifies me because I really can't see a future where there's so little value proposition in miniatures and reliance on IPs becoming the dominant way of selling models. And let me tell you, I don't want to live in that future. So let's make 2022 count and stand up against anti-consumer practices in the hobby. We can all be fans of miniatures, but responsible fans. And I hope you'll join me in trying to get that message out there. And if you do want to support the channel in fighting for the hobby, please check out my Patreon at patreon.com/discoursminiatures. It is only because of the support of my patrons like those listed on the screen that I'm able to create content like this. Thank you so much. It really means the world to me. And if you would like to see reviews of alternative games, critiques of bad habits, as well as some fun content celebrating the hobby, then please do consider supporting the channel, financially or otherwise. I have been blown away by the support of everyone this year. It has been a truly humbling experience, so I just want to take a moment to thank you, the viewer. I hope that I can continue to create bigger and better content going into 2022. So here's to the new year. May it be better than 2021. And as always, I'll catch you next time, except it will be in an entirely new year. Ooh, spooky. Bye-bye!